Coming up on this next edition of Columbus Connection, as you know, February is Black History Month. We have a guest here, not only have great history for Black history, but Columbus history. We'll tell you more about it coming up on the next edition of Columbus Connection. Welcome to Columbus Connection. Hi, I'm Michael King, setting in for David Brett, and we got a great show today. You know, I have a guest here was telling me so many great stories about Columbus. Now, it's a Black history story, but it's also a Columbus, Georgia story. Our guest is Miss Tammy Lolita Clark, and first of all, welcome to our show. Welcome to Columbus Connection, and you've got a lot of stuff in your belt that you've done, and a lot of history about Columbus, Georgia.
Yes, I do.
Well, let's just jump right in here.
Thank you.
Tell us about your story, your grandmother's story. Let's first of all, let's talk about you for a minute.
Yes, sir. Well, I've been singing around Columbus ever since 1975. I started because my sister encouraged me, hey, get in the WOKS talent show. I was scared I would sing around the neighborhood, around Urban Avenue, Dole, on the east side, not too far away from Ed Harbison, and he was like a real good friend, and I didn't know that he was affiliated with WOKS. So when I went to audition, he smiled at me. He said, "Sweetie, I've been listening to you every time I go to work," and from that point on, I just started singing because the neighbors would stand in the yard and listen to me sing because I was afraid to go outside because of my vision. So I would just sing, sing, sing. I'd sing commercials, sing the wallpaper, just sing.
Wow. Now, singing is something that runs in your family.
Yes, sir, it does.
And your siblings and your mother, grandmother, all.
My aunts and uncles, they were singers, and distant cousins. I'm related to the singer Eddie Floyd, who did the hit song Knock on Wood with Stax Records. Grandmother out of Albany, Georgia, had a radio program called Sister Mary Floyd and her Trumpet Sisters. And she would bring gospel to Albany every Sunday morning. And she would preach and feed you, and different stars in the day would come in when they didn't have a place to stay.
Let's talk about grandmother.
Yes, sir.
We talk about stars and grandmother feeding everybody. In those days, tell us what was going on in Columbus, Georgia, and what role your grandmother played in these different historical events.
In the early 70s, it was a lot going on, you know, with Vietnam and everything, and times were changing, and Columbus really started growing because a lot of people were stationed here. My mother married my stepfather, and we got stationed here. He was stationed at Fort Benning, and I watched a lot of musicians who were nobodies come through here, and I would see them. My mother would take them in, feed them. I looked up, a couple of them wind up going to Woodstock, all kinds of things. So it was like, Columbus was like a melting pot of people coming in and going to different parts of the world. It was really something to see and something to know, because Channel 9, WOKS, everybody here were doing wonderful jobs, you know, and Black people were really starting to come into their own, and it was really a wonderful time to grow up to see this.
Now, when we talk about some celebrities, who were some of the celebrities that you would see back then?
Little Richard, he used to do my hair. Aretha Franklin, I used to follow her everywhere she went because it was something magical about her. Lord, she could cook the best fried chicken I ever ate in my life, but I never told my grandma. Sam and Dave, Percy Sledge, the singers, most of them were coming down from Stax Records, you know, out of, you know, that area, and everybody just knew everybody in the musical circuit.
Some of this history I share with you because I grew up in North Alabama, and in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, there was Fame Studios. Percy Sledge, I knew him personally. I knew Percy Sledge's son, Percy Sledge Jr. I knew all of them growing up. And so I can remember on 4th of July, we was at this place called Miss Ella's Cafe.
Oh,
Percy Sledge would come by in his Cadillac, and it'd be, you know, a convertible top, and everybody would run out there. But everybody knew each other.
Yeah.
Now, getting back to your story, we are talking about, and I understand that your grandmother provided lodging for
She
people.
did. Because of the Jim Crow laws, we as black people were struggling. And a lot of singers, if you do your history about Georgia and the situation with Ray Charles, because he wanted to have black and white dance together, so he was barred. And a lot of the singers couldn't stay in the hotel, so grandmother offered her home. I mean, it was everybody. You could think of Patti LaBelle, you could think of Tina Turner, Ike Tina Turner. I was just a kid when all of this was going on. And what a way to grow up. You never know who was gonna pull up in the yard. It was like, oh my God, the staple singers, Mighty Clouds of Joy, you name them, they came through here, and she fed them. And no matter what you did on Friday, you got up and went to church. That was the way we lived. That was the thing we did.
So what size home did your grandmother have?
It was, I would say, like a kind of a large situation. Pianos, guitars, you know, just rooms upstairs, room downstairs, aunts and uncles, everybody, you know, taking care of who's coming in next. We just offered them lodging, and they offered us love, and it was like, wow, what a history. The records read like a dictionary. I mean, it's like, oh my goodness.
Do you have pictures or anything of some of the people that came
Well,
from that? And I know
we
it's-
did, but when Hurricane Opal came through, Albany had a flood.
Okay.
And my aunt and my uncles and my grandmother lost a lot.
And you mentioned Albany because they moved to Albany, Georgia, and that's where the pictures and stuff were destroyed. But they was originally in Columbus, Georgia.
No, we were originally from Albany.
But
my mom and my stepfather and everything moved here.
Okay, gotcha.
Because he was stationed.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, and now, how long ago was that? Because when we talk about Jim Crow and segregation, how long ago?
The 60s.
This was in the 60s.
Yes.
There were no.
A lot of the stars were already coming before I was born. So grandmother's house had like a reputation of you know, the radio programs and everything that she did, and taking care of stars. And as I was coming up in the early 60s, you know, it was like, it was still there, because going to school, you know, you saw what you saw. You saw the whites only signs, you know how it was.
Yes.
And
Now, you mentioned your grandmother. Your grandmother's name was?
Mary Frances Floyd. Her original name was Mary Frances Hicks.
Now, she had a gospel group also, correct?
Yeah, Sister Mary Floyd and the Trumpet Sisters.
And Mary Floyd is related to?
Eddie Floyd.
And if you don't know Eddie Floyd,
You
I'm
do.
gonna date myself, I guess you better knock
On wood.
on wood. That's, you know, I remember that, you know, so that was a big hit back in the day. And I think you said that was on Stax Records.
Oh, yeah.
Stax did a lot of recording. Some of their artists, they were sent to Muscle shows. There was this group that actually played most of the music for a lot of artists that was called the Swampers. Mm-hmm. And one of the members of the Swampers, the guitar player Jimmy Johnson, he taught at this college that I went to. So I remember seeing him a lot, and I used to work at a radio station next door to Muscle Shoals Sound. That was a studio that he started. And they had, if you've seen the movie, the Aretha Franklin movie, then you're gonna see some of the Muscle Shoals history. All of this history is embedded together. Stax Records, Chess Records, Fame Studio, Muscle Shoals Sound, and it came down here to Columbus, Georgia. And let's talk about another famous person that we know of, that movie has been documented, Ray Charles. Tell me the story between you and Ray Charles.
Well, Ray Charles was something else. He was brilliant as a musician, and knowing him, you know, off and on throughout my life, I bumped into him again in 1984 when I was at the School for the Blind, and they had the anniversary of the Georgia Academy for the Blind, and we got to sing together. And we were sitting at the piano, and he says, "How's your grandma?" I said, "She's fine." And it was like, it was so awesome to know, because we're like family, and it's like unbelievable, because when he came to town back in the day as a kid, I would watch him come in. He knew his way around the house. And he would sit on the sofa, and Grandma would bring him some food and stuff. And the big picture she had of him, sitting on the sofa eating a bowl of chitlins, just getting ready to sing. He'd get up, and he'd know where the piano was. And he was so brilliant. I would listen to him play. And he would play scales and stuff. He said, "Baby, you got a wonderful ear. Listen to what I'm doing." And when we got to sing together at the School for the Blind, it was really, truly awesome, because he would play a song, like 5 seconds of a song, I would know it.
Wow.
Because of tonal memory.
Of course, you and Ray had a connection. You are visually impaired, and being able to open up the other senses to hear things and pick up that, that's a genius. When God take away something, he adds something else. And that's such a marvelous story, to be able to have all of this history of different artists. Now you talk about the Staples singer. Tell me about Pop Staples and Mabel Staples.
Oh, wow. It was really something to see, being a little 7-year-old kid, just looking, supposed to be asleep. And they, true enough, everybody went to church, but like on Friday night, everybody would drink the moonshine. I would just be looking and sitting around the big fire and everything, eating the pork skins and all. And I'm supposed to be in the bed. It was like, come on, baby, we won't tell Grandma. Come on, you can sing too.
Well, wow. Now, I was watching this TV show on. I shouldn't say the name, but it's on one of the networks.
Yeah.
And it's about Columbus, Georgia. This family who came from, I think it was San Diego or San Francisco, back home to Columbus, Georgia. And in this particular episode, they was telling a fictitious story of this hotel that was going to tear down. And of course, the plot was the hotel was supposed to be the place where all of the black entertainers stayed when they came to Columbus, Georgia, because everything else was segregated. And the real story is more interesting. That particular hotel is actually your grandmother's house.
Wow. It just amazes me how everything connects together.
It is.
How history is like a chain, and the blessings that people have brought to this city. Ma Rainey, she knew Ma Rainey. Wow. It's like everybody knew everybody.
Columbus is so rich with history. And again, if we're talking about February being Black History Month, but the stories you're telling are actually Columbus, Georgia history. And it should be included as Columbus, Georgia history, because a lot of things, a lot of people has came through this area, and we blessed them and they blessed us.
Even country singers like T.G. Shepherd's from Columbus, Georgia. A lot of people don't realize how many people are actually from Columbus, Georgia. It's amazing. And I just couldn't believe it.
Let me ask you a question. Have you wrote a book yet?
No, I'm not a good writer, but I would love to find a ghostwriter that could help me do it.
Well, I'll tell you, if anyone that has an opportunity to be a writer and want to know a good story, give us your name again.
I'm Tammy Lolita Clark, and I'm from Albany, Georgia, and I live right here for more than over 40 years and more of my life right here in Columbus, Georgia.
If someone wanted to get in touch with you, do you have I don't want you to give out a phone number, but maybe an email address, how they could contact you?
Yes, sir. TC8320, wait a minute, let me get it right. TC832036@gmail.com.
Let's give them one more time.
TC832036@gmail.com. And before I go, I'd like to tell you this.
Okay.
When I was 7 years old, Dr. Martin Luther King actually helped me get into school. He was marching through Albany because Albany was in one of the top 10 lists as one of the most racist places
Yes.
in Georgia. And he was looking to get airtime and, television and everything to get the black people motivated. And I remember there was a knock on my door because I couldn't go to school because they didn't know how to teach a blind kid. And he knocked on the door and he talked to my grandmother and my great-grandmother and my grandfather and everything. And he said, "Why is that little girl crying?" I was sitting at my grandmother's table and I was crying because I would watch my sisters and my brothers and everybody go to school and I wasn't allowed to go. And he said, "Baby, why are you crying?" I said, "Because I want to go to school like them." And when you go to school, try to go to school as a black child and all you see is the white signs, whites only, it really just broke my heart because I wanted to learn. And to be put in the back of the room and they don't know how to teach you. I relied on my senses and he marched through Albany and lo and behold, I was able to go to school and I thank him to this very day. He was a remarkable man.
And after that march, he went on to Birmingham,
Yes, he did.
got arrested, and they started the Children's March. That's when they turned the hose, put the German Shepherd dogs on all the kids and people, and this is all history. This
Yes.
is all history. Well, Ms. Clark, we appreciate you coming by and
And
telling
I
us that.
appreciate you too.
And,
This is a blessing.
It is such a blessing. I had to get this story out. I had to really, because I was seeing things that wasn't accurate, and I wanted people to get some accuracy about Columbus, Georgia. And this is from Columbus, Georgia to Albany, Georgia, and the stories was not being told as they should. Because in that particular program I was telling you about, they had also an episode where Martin Luther King stayed at this hotel. Martin did not stay at that hotel. Martin stayed at your grandmother's.
Yes.
So,
And-
this is so historical.
And I have to give Columbus credit. Thanks to them, I was able to go to school here.
Great,
And they got to the bottom of what was going on about my sight.
great.
And it was wonderful to just grow up here.
Well-
And I met Eartha Kitt in 1968. They brought the
Wow.
Batman and Robin through here. Oh, she was beautiful.
Oh, yes, yes. Well, I'll tell you, there is a silver lining. And thanks to Columbus, Georgia, coming up to the plate and doing what it was supposed to do, things have gotten better. We still have problems and still issues,
Oh, yeah.
but things are getting better. And we hope that this information that you're giving us will be a blessing to someone. And hopefully someone will come up and talk to you and think about putting this down on paper, because we shouldn't let all of these stories get lost. Well, again, give us yours. I'm not going to ask for your phone number. I don't want anybody crazy calling you. But give us your email address, and maybe someone can email you and talk about getting in touch with you and writing this story.
It's tc832036@gmail.com.
Okay,
And I
well,
want to thank everyone here at this TV station. It is so awesome. And I'm blessed. A tear is about to fall out of my eye.
well, we're
because
blessed,
it's
Ms.
like-
Clark. We're blessed to have you here. And we're blessed to have people out there watching it and listening to this story. And we hope that we will find some way of connecting you with information, people, and all types of things that you would want on Columbus Connection. We'll see you next time.